Welcome to the Better Sex Podcast. My name is Deborah Catt, and I am your shameless host. This podcast has unfiltered conversations about sex and relationships. And these conversations can be frank and explicit, so they may not be appropriate for all audiences. Please listen with care. I truly believe that a sexy world creates a happier and a safer world. If you want to do your part to create a safe and sexy world, please hit subscribe, like, and leave a message or a comment. Today, I am talking with Jason and Tina Marie Scott. They are certified life and relationship coaches. They are the co-hosts of Loving Beyond the I Do podcast, the authors of the best-selling book, Manifest a Joy-Filled Relationship. They have over 33 years of marriage and experience in helping couples foster deeper connections and intimacy. And I am so thrilled you guys are here today. So first question, how did you meet?
Jason has a long, drawn-out story, but I'm going to give you the short version.
And then I'm going to give you the real, authentic version.
All right, I'm all ears. You got me here.
So actually, we met through friends. My friend was going on a date with his friend, and I just happened to be over my friend's house, and he happened to be with his friend, and that's kind of how we met.
Now, here's my side of the story. So the week before, our friends met at a party, and I was with my friend. Mm-hmm. So he said the next weekend, he said, hey, man, you want to go out to the movies? And I said, sure, we can go out to the movies. He said, yeah. He said, then after that, I'm going to go over the young lady's house. I said, great. And then he said, we went to the movies and everything. And then he said, hey, well, Jay, you know what? She said her friend wouldn't like you. She wouldn't be interested in you. My friend told him, oh, I have a friend over here. And he said, great, I have my friend with me. And she said, oh, my friend wouldn't be interested in your friend. So then I said,
because you missed that part because of what?
What?
Because she's a head turner.
She's a head turner. I said, oh, I'm a head turner too. So I walk in there. I have big energy now, right? So I'm like, okay, so she don't like me. I don't like her. I don't know what she looked like. I don't know anything. But I'm coming in there with my shoulders up tall, right? So we walking in. Now here's the thing. My buddy said he asked me to go to the movies with him. I said, okay, great. So we went to the movies, had a great time. We get to the young lady's house around 6, 7 o'clock that evening, a Saturday evening, right? I did not know that he was supposed to take her to the movies. Ooh. So she's at home waiting,
right,
to go to the movies. So I'm walking in with this big energy, and there's a lot of energy already in the room.
Yeah, because we were upset because my friend had told me he would be there. He was coming by to pick her up, and she just wanted me there because she was home alone. And she was like, I don't want to be here by myself when he arrives. She never told me he had a friend with him. She thought he was coming to pick her up and they were going to go out and eat and enjoy themselves. So I arrived at her house around 12 o'clock noon, and we're sitting there waiting 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It's like 7:30. It's getting dark. I think it was a little dark outside.
It was dark because it was close to when it was fall.
It was just crazy. I'm like, where is he? And she's like, I don't know. So, it was the time before cell phones.
So there was no way to call us because we were out at the movies.
Yeah.
So we walk in, and I noticed, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of energy in here, but I got to stick to my guns because she don't like me. She's not going to be interested. She's not going to be interested. So I can't be interested in her. I can't. So then I get there and we're joking and stuff. And then I actually made the young lady upset. So it was just a lot of dynamics going on. So
there was a lot of sarcasm because I told my friend, don't open the door. I was like, don't let him in. She was like, and she was like, he has a friend. I'm like, why does he have a friend with him if you guys were supposed to be going out? She was like, oh, he told me he had a friend. I was like, don't let him in. Like, there are so many hours late. He didn't call. He didn't give you an excuse. I was upset. I was like, you don't do that to people the first time you're planning to go out with them. So I was really upset.
It was a melting pot of mess.
Yes.
Right. And hurt feelings. So then we get in and we're going through all of our things. And then Tina pulls out, this is how interested she was in the conversation. She pulls out some fingernail polish and start painting her nails.
Because I just didn't want to be bothered with them.
And I said, I said, "Oh man," I said, "You need some help with that? I can help. I can paint your nails for you." She says, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to paint nails. I grew up with 3 sisters." So I had that on lock, right? So I dropped down on one knee. She was sitting on the couch, and I was painting her nails. And my buddy was like, "Jay, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing this, man? You embarrassing me." I'm like, "Oh, man, this is nothing." I'm like, "Really? I need to get distracted from what's going on, right?" So I'm painting. And then I just happened to glance in her eyes. And I said, "Man, you got some beautiful eyes." But then I didn't think nothing of it, and I kept on going.
He was trying to drop a line.
I didn't know I was trying to drop a line, but I got caught up. I looked into her eyes. And then after that, we just kind of left to give them space. And then as we left to give them space, we just walked around the neighborhood just to talk.
Yeah. So we decided to leave and give them an opportunity to talk and get to know each other. So we left because, like he said, I was throwing sarcasm and foul remarks about, about them. And so we were like, okay, well, we're just going to leave and give you guys an opportunity. So as we left, we just, as he said, walked around the neighborhood, kind of got to know each other. And it was just really an authentic conversation. It really was. It was, he wasn't trying to hit on me. And plus, I had made it very clear that I was on my way off to college. And I was not looking for, because we were just talking. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm on my way off to college. And so we just kind of, connected.
Friends.
Yeah, we were friends so he asked me to call him. He said, if I give you my number, would you call me? And I had no intention of calling him, but he kept asking me, well, don't take my number if you're not going to call me, please. I'll just take it back. If you're not going to call, just be honest. And he was like, I just want to talk. And so I said, he kept saying, he said, well, promise you're going to call. And so I promised, and I'm a person of my word.
Yep.
So I did call, and we really had good conversation. So from that day forward, I think it was about a month before I was leaving off to college. We just talked every day, went out, had fun, and we were just friends. So we were friends for 2 years. Then we dated for 2 years, and then we got married. Yeah. So that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, I was in the friend zone for so long, I have PTSD about it. So
Now, wait a second. I have a question about the friend zone, because I really clearly you guys have an amazing relationship, and it started really, truly, authentically.
Yes, as friends.
Yes.
As authentically as you can get, apparently. But I think friendship is really important, and especially when you're in a long-term relationship, because what I've observed, and you can tell me, what you've experienced here, is it's like when you're in a long-term relationship, you play all the different parts, right? Your friends, your lovers, your frenemies, your each other's opportunity for growth, all of those different things. But like when you have that solid companionship and friendship, you've got a lot to grow with. And that kind of brings us to the topic that we were going to talk about, which is, how do you have that spark? How do you keep the spark long term?
I think that's a great question. What people don't realize is that your relationship is just like a car. So we would never buy a car and just say, I'm going to fill up the tank one time. I'm going to do one tire rotation. I'm going to do one maintenance, and then it's going to last me forever. That's where we go wrong in relationships.
Yep.
You have to do the required maintenance. You have to do the tune-ups. You have to make sure that you're filling up your love tanks. You have to make sure that you're changing the tire when it's flat, but that you're doing it with the right tools, right? So we would never take a hammer to try to change a flat tire. They're actual tools that we need, right? Everything. I wouldn't try to bake a cake with I hope I wouldn't, with the screwdriver, right?
All right.
So we have tools for each job. We have to understand in relationships, there's a tool for everything. So if we're doing the required maintenance, then the love is going to keep humming. You're going to keep going. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to get hard.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges. That means, our cars break down sometime, don't they? Didn't your car break down sometimes?
Yeah, but you know where to take it. You take it to the technician, and then you get it repaired.
You figure it out.
You figure it out.
What's going on?
Right.
What happened? Where did we go wrong? So you go and get a diagnosis, right? So it's the same thing with us. You have to sit back and say, but the problem again in relationships is that we want to diagnose our partner. We want to say what's wrong with them. Well, they don't do this, and they didn't do that, and he stopped doing this. Not sometimes, when they talk about that pointing the finger, there's 4 or 3 pointing back at you or whatever the saying is.
Mhm.
So we have to realize that what is our part? What did we do? Did I not fill up the tank? Am I looking for him to fill my tank up?
Ooh.
So we have to make sure that we're asking the right questions and we're using the right tools. I know I said a lot.
You did, and I've got questions. So when you say fill up the tank, right? Like, I mean, that seems obvious, but what are ways in which people can fill up their own tanks?
They're love tanks. We call them love tanks.
Yep. So here's the thing. Everybody's love tank is different. So and this is where the conversation needs to happen. So you need to find out how your partner needs their love tank filled. Because what fills up one person will not fill up the other person. Then this is where we get into, problems when we try to give people our love the way we want to receive it to them.
Yes.
So once we have this conversation, and most people don't have it because everything in the beginning, everything is great, right? You can bring me some roses, you can bring me this, you can bring me that, and I'm happy. We're good. But after a while, you get to a point where like, okay, you don't even know me. You're buying me gifts. You don't know who I am. Now I'm resentful for the gifts that I get because I feel like you deep down you don't know me because we never had a conversation about it, right? So if we never had a conversation about it, I'm buying you what I think you would want, like what every woman would want, which is too general, right? Because I'm not dating every woman. I'm dating you, and I'm buying for you.
You got to pause there for just a second. Because I really want to underline the difference between dating every woman and dating the woman in front of you. Because I think that's a big... Yeah, or the side. Love that. I love that. But that's so true. I mean, I think, one of the mistakes that we all make is that it's like, there's so many generalities that we make about the opposite sex.
Absolutely.
And there's so many, like... The reality is that there's, our partner may be feeling off one day. And so what worked that day is not going to work the next day. But being really present with like, who are you in this moment and who are you today? And especially in the long-term relationships, because I'm going to imagine that you're a bit different than you were 33 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or you know what? We're smarter. We're wiser. We're less reactive. Now we're still silly.
Right.
We still have a great relationship. We still enjoy life.
Yes.
But it was through...
We have a lot more wisdom.
Yes. It was through trial and error because we were really young when we got married and we had no idea what marriage was. We had the same idea everyone has. This is what you do when you grow up. You get married. But no one gives you a roadmap, right? It's just like motherhood. Even with motherhood, there's books. This is what you can expect. This is what you should do. This is... Not necessarily in marriage. There's more now. And so we really sought out the books that, where are the books out there that I can read to understand? There was one book that I read early in our marriage, and it was called Fit to be Tied. And it was just a revelation because it highlighted how we look at our environment. And so the person was saying, if your dad was a dad that fixed everything around the house, when you get married, you just assume that your husband can do that. Now, that's a very good generality because it wasn't until we got married and bought our first home, which was 2 years after we got married, 2 or 3 years after we got married, that I realized that my husband could not paint.
Actually, I couldn't. That's not the only thing I could not do. So Tina grew up in a house. I grew up in an apartment. I didn't have to fix anything. I called a landlord. So I didn't know how to fix anything. And she knew how to fix everything.
Because I had sisters. My mom had 4 girls. And I had a brother, but when my mom and dad divorced, the son went with my dad. So when we were there, we had to do everything. We know how... I mean, me and my
I didn't even know how to cut grass. Okay, my wife's out there cutting grass in the new house. It was just interesting.
All right, now I have another question. So
right.
You have this knowledge, right? And you don't. And generally speaking, we expect men to be able to fix things and women to be able to cook and all those good things. So how did the negotiations come up? Did you learn how to cut grass or fix the thing?
No, I think that's what makes our relationship different. We never put on gender roles.
I'll say this. I tried, but I could never get the line straight.
And I said, it looks like a cat licked the grass. Have you ever seen a cat lick somebody's head? So I was like, no. But that's the great thing about when you go into with a friendship, like you said, that basis of a friendship,
Mm-hmm.
you don't go into your relationship with preconceived ideas or unspoken expectations.
Right.
I think that's one of the biggest benefits we had.
Yep.
It was like, okay, you can't do it. All right, I know how. It's not a big thing. We never fell into gender roles. So let me let Jason tell you about, his uncle. And in our book, it's actually in there. His uncle when he came to visit.
Oh, it was interesting, right? So he comes in and the floors are shining, right? They were just done waxing everything. And then he looks out the window and he sees the beautiful flowers because flowers was everywhere. He goes, "Oh, Tina, your flowers are beautiful out there." He said, "Jason, you really knocked that floor out." I said, "Well, Unc, I did the flowers. Tina did the floor." And he was just confused.
But you see how society gives us these gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
So, you stated about generalities. There's no one size fits all. What works in your relationship may not work in my relationship. So that's why it's important to have the right tools to understand, hey, who is this person I'm married to? What are their strengths and weaknesses? And how do we combine them? Where he's weak and I'm strong, let's work it out. And where I'm weak and he's strong, let's work it out. That's what it's a one time I asked my son, "What do you think about marriage?" And he said, "It's a partnership."
He sure did.
And I was just like, a partnership? Like I've never, it is, but I was like more like, oh wow.
It's transactional. Yeah.
I was like, it's love, it's romance. He was like, it's a partnership. But it really is. When you get down to it, it's a partnership.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You have to respect it.
And even most of that is, how do we communicate that? How do we communicate that effectively so that our partner is not having these unspoken expectations and resentment and hatred and not being able to talk or communicate that's coming in. So we have to be able to understand that. How do we effectively communicate who we are?
It takes a level of maturity as well to say, my wife can do this better than I can. And it's normally a man's role. So I was never, I never felt like I was less than a man because I didn't know how to cut grass or paint or do anything around the house, right? The things I knew how to do, I knew how to do. Thank God for YouTube. I learned, yeah.
YouTube.
I got my certificate from YouTube.
PhD.
Yes, I learned how to do some things, right? I built a whole entire basement. So thank you. I grew, she grew. She didn't make me feel less than anything. So that's one thing that we had. We had maturity on our side.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And that right there keeps romance alive. It keeps the intimacy alive. There's nothing better than seeing a man work.
Yep. Even if it is outside with flowers.
I mean, really, I just loved to see him. He took so much pride in putting the flowers down.
That was beautiful.
And I was like, I'm not going to help because every plant I get dies. Every plant, people talk about the peace lily, and I've gotten several of those. And I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. My peace lily is dead within a week. So I'm just terrible with. So I don't even bother with the flowers, but it's just being able to have fun in it. Yeah. Life is about having fun. It's not always about trying to be who's over who or trying to be right, or it's about, hey, how do we make it through the next day? And just when challenges come up, we're just going to tackle them together.
There you go.
I love that. Well, and I just really want to underline a few things that you guys have said because there's just been so much good here. But really starting, even starting with the idea of love as partnership, right? I think one of the big things that we grow up with often is this idea that love is going to get us through everything. And love is a beautiful thing, and we need it, and we want it. And it's, it's supported by these other ideas and by these other skills. And so the idea of partnership and being able to see what your partner does well and praise them for it, and then, let them off the hook on things that they don't do well.
Right?
And so I super appreciate that. And then the idea of so you used maturity a couple of times, and I'm curious what you mean by that.
Well, with maturity, it means that if I feel like I'm right, I don't back down, right? I'm going to make sure you understand that I'm right. It takes a level of maturity to understand that this isn't my strong suit. I can't do this. I can force myself to try to do it, and I can make it look bad or make it look ugly. But just doing it just because I'm supposed to do it, society says I'm supposed to, I can step back and say, this is not my strong suit. Baby, you're better at this. Go ahead and take care of this, because I know you're going to make the house look good, or you're going to take care of the situation that needs to be taken care of. So, but for me, I think it'd be childish to say, I'm the man, I'm supposed to do it, and I'm going to do it. And then I jack it up and it looks bad, and the wife's upset because
Right. You've wasted money, you've wasted time. Now you're arguing over something that could have been eliminated. Right? That's a level of maturity. Being able to actually step into a role and say, you know what? I don't have to follow society's norms. We can figure this out ourselves. What's your strong suit? Right?
And you've mentioned about love. Okay, whose version of love are we living? Right? Is it your version of love? Is it society's version of love? Is it your generational learned behavior that you living out? Is that version of love? So it's many different versions of love before we actually get to our version of love, right? When we first got married, on the way to the limo, someone said to me, now don't forget, Jason, your money is your money and Tina's money is her money. And I said, we don't really have that much money in the first place. So we're going to put our two nothings together and we're going to come up with something, right? So, but again, that's someone else's way of doing things, right? We're new. We haven't even been married 24 hours, right? Before we get this. And I said, no, that's not going to work for me. We're going to figure this out. And money is not going to be the issue. We're not going to fight about money. So money has never been an issue because we never made it an issue. What's ever in the bank, everyone's free to put their hands on it and do whatever. Now, we know what needs to be taken care of. We just going to be responsible with that. But you don't have to ask me for anything. I know this for us, and I thought that this is how a majority of the couples did, that what went in the bank, and then if you wanted to buy something, you bought it. I didn't have to ask for a loan or borrow money from my wife. Excuse me. But most people have two separate bank accounts and they have one for the house, which is fine. That works for them, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like the money goes in one pot, and then from there we can spend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't normally buy anything anyway.
It's two adults.
It's two adults. I'm responsible. Again, a level of maturity, right? Mm-hmm. Some people. I had one lady tell me once, we were talking, she said, oh, I can't put my money with my husband. I said, oh my goodness. I said, you don't even trust your husband as much. She said, oh no, I don't.
And that right there lets you know that there's underlying issues there. Whether it's her past, whether it's her belief, whether it's what happened, whether it's something that happened with her parents. But then I want to go back to the love issue, right? So first of all, we have to understand when we're talking about love, we can't come into a relationship looking for someone to love us. We have to love ourselves first, because if I know what love feels like, if I know what love looks like to me, now I'm letting my partner know. But if I'm coming to you empty, so to my love tank, right? So if I'm coming to, if you're going into a relationship looking for someone to love you up, to fill you up with love, that means you're taking their version of love. Right? They have no idea. If you don't know what love looks like and feels like to you, how can you possibly expect someone else to give that to you? And that's just a very, love is something that we have to self-love. I have to love all of the ugly parts, the beautiful parts, the in-between, the smart parts, the not so smart parts. I have to love everything about me. And that means that I'm not comparing myself. And when we do that, we don't have to feel jealous. We don't have to feel envious. We don't have to look for our partner to love us to make us complete. That means I'm coming into a relationship where I'm loving myself. Now I have enough to overflow and love you as well. But if I'm looking for you to fill me up, that means what am I bringing to the relationship? That means I'm empty. I have nothing to give you.
Right.
And so,
when I look to you, you won't give me anything, right? If I'm bringing everything, I'm like, okay, so what do you think about this? I don't know, whatever you think. I'm asking you because I'm done thinking.
There's so many dimensions to relationships that we just really have. Like we said, it's like onions. There's so many different layers that we really, when we take the time to realize, we also have a podcast and we had a guest on and we were talking to her. And so now she's in her second marriage, but she was saying she got married early on and she didn't know what she wanted in a marriage. She's like, I didn't even know. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I liked. But that's the truth. We just don't know it until we take the time to discover who we are and what we want. We cannot effectively communicate that to someone else. Then we get upset.
Right. So I want to dive a little bit more into the manifest framework. And but first I want to give people an opportunity to know how they can support the Better Sex podcast. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about what you want to bring and let people know that sex is a complex subject and it can make or break a relationship. And unfortunately, most of us don't grow up with an environment where talking about sex is welcome. That's why I'm offering the Sexual Breakthrough Bedroom Session, a personalized one-on-one experience for a more satisfying sex life. Because let's face it, a podcast, even as good as this one, is not enough. You need some tools and you need some practice. So if that's something you're interested in, please check out the show notes and let's talk. All right. So tell me about the framework of the manifest framework.
Yes. So it's the manifest method, and that's what we use. And it's to help individuals create and develop the type of relationship they truly want. So what we do is we spell out manifest.
Yeah. So when we're talking about manifest, we take the M, the A, the N, the I, the FEST, and we give you tools to use. So the M stands for mindset, the A stands for awareness, the N stands for nurture. And so it's just continually like that. So the I stands for intention, and the F stands for focus, and then the E stands for empower, and then the S stands for to strengthen your relationship. And then the T is ultimately what we want to do is transform our relationships from where it is to where we want it to be. So it's about transformation. So we use that particular framework to help people to create and nurture and cultivate and create the type of relationship that they really, truly want. And like we said before, right? The type of relationship that I want may not be the type of relationship that you want. How you feel loved and appreciated may not be the way I feel loved and appreciated. So we have to do the work ourselves because in love, there's no one size fits all. I don't care how many shirts we buy that says one size fits all. It does not. I'm living proof that it does not.
And I want to dive into the mindset portion of the framework. So the mindset, it refers to like a mentality, an attitude, a frame of mind. And we relate all of our letters to a law. And the law that we associate mindset with is the law of cause and effect, which is chapter 5 in our book. And what it says is that every action produces an equivalent reaction. That means that every positive or negative interaction leaves an imprint on your relationship, influencing the level of intimacy, trust, and emotional safety.
So when we understand that when we're talking about your mindset, we relate it, cause and effect. What causes am I doing that's producing these type of effects in my relationship? Because we always want to blame someone else. It's not my fault. It's my mom's. It's my neighbors. It's my bosses.
It's the way I was raised.
It's definitely my spouses. If they would just get their act together, right? So we have to understand it's a mindset. And then when we're talking about like awareness, and understanding that what is awareness? How do we become aware of what we're doing? So it's our attention, it's our consciousness, right? And we have to understand. So we relate that to the law of attraction. And it's what we put out, we bring back. That's what we attract. So people sometimes get confused with what the law of attraction is. It's what you are actually emitting. That's what the type of experiences you're going to attract, the type of relationship you're going to have. So it's really understanding what are these universal laws, right? Because the law is the law, and the laws are the laws. They're there, just like the law of gravity. We can believe it or not believe it. But if you go to the top of a building and think you're going to walk in midair, so it's like these laws exist. And if we know what we're doing and how to apply them, because if we're aware and we can understand things better, we can make better choices.
Yeah, so I want to go back to, as you said, filling your tank and the law of attraction seem like they would be very similar. So if you know yourself well, if your tank is full and you're feeling, if you're feeling amorous or you're feeling loving, and you're going to attract more of that to you and into your life and into your marriage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Is that right?
It is right. But the key thing that you said is if you know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we think that we're sending out vibrations of love, but we're not. So sometimes
we're saying that we are.
Right. So I may feel maybe a day I'm off, right? And I may feel like I need a little bit more love or support today. And because of that, I may actually be a little bit upset or a little bit, not my high voltage self. So I may be snapping. I may be irritated. I may be saying things or doing things where I think that I'm radiating love, right? But I'm actually radiating at a lower frequency. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not giving out what I want returned. But what's going to happen is I'm going to attract what I'm giving out. So if my partner turns around and snaps at me, and I'm like, well, all I wanted was some love, it's just not going to happen. We have to know ourselves and know what we're doing, because so many times people say, well, that's not true. I'm attracting something that I'm totally not. We can't be fooled by what, and it states it in our book. We cannot be fooled by what we think we're giving. We have to be aware. What am I truly doing? What part am I playing? Do I come home sometimes and because of the stresses of the day, I am a little irritable. I am a little snappy. I'm not very loving, but I want you to love me anyway. And that's important, right? When we want to, love me when I'm unlovable, but how many times, right? So we have to be careful of what energy are we putting out. People say you can walk into a room and you can feel, you can, what is it? You can cut.
You can cut
the tension. Cut the tension with a knife. What does that mean? Is anybody saying anything? No, but you can feel the energy, right? Our partners can feel the energy that's coming off of us. So sometimes we may think we're giving love, but we may be giving a little hate. We may be giving a little irritation. So
absolutely. And I'm curious about that, because so in my relationship, one of the things that we've developed is what we call safe words, right? So I'll be grumpy and my partner will, he's like, he's like, do you want a hug? Right. And that's kind of our safe word, because, that's generally what I'm looking for, is to be held anyway. And, so I hear that. My first reaction is like, no, I don't want a hug. And then it's like, well, okay, actually,
but it's the safe word.
Actually, I do want to, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for recognizing where I'm at. Thank you for giving me the signal. And I'm curious if you have if you have signals that you guys give each other.
Well, we created a safe space, right? So we have love talks.
Yep.
So when one of us is a little out of alignment, right? A little grumpy, a little upset, or I want to really communicate something to him, or he wants to communicate something to me where, we can separate it from our feelings, or maybe we argued about it, or both of us have not been able to come to terms with it. We have love talks.
And at that time, love talk means everything goes off. I need your undivided attention. I don't need you to respond. I just need you to listen and listen only. I don't need you to fix the problem. I just need you to listen so then I can be heard. And at that point, it's just one issue at a time, right? So if Tina has an issue, say, I need to have a love talk. I know. Okay, you get my undivided attention.
And we're open and receptive.
Right.
We're approaching this with love. So now I'm listening, not from a defensive stance,
trying
or
to fix it or get in there and get my answer.
It's just like, oh, okay, let's talk and let's do it with love and respect.
Yep.
And it really, what it does is allows us to hear what the other person is saying.
And I'm gonna, kind of get under that a little bit, because I know it can often feel like, oh shit, it's like, can we talk about, so how do you like?
Well, because it's not a we need to talk.
Now, if you came at me with we need to talk, I'm armoring up. I got all my armor on, right? Because I know it's about to come, right? But here, I need a love talk. And we've already set the ground rules for that, right? So we already know it's not aggressive. It's just that I really need to be able to talk. And I just really need you to listen at this point. I don't need you to go in fix-it mode, because the first thing what happens is Tina says something. And the first thing I'm trying to do is, how do I fix what she's saying? I need to fix it, right? I need to make it right. But I'm missing the whole crust of the situation.
A little aggressive.
Yeah. I'm missing the whole essence of what she's trying to tell me, right? Because I'm going into fix-it mode. She goes, and so I had to take a step back. So when she said we need a love talk, like, okay, I don't need to try to fix it. I just need to listen and understand what she's trying to say. Because a lot of times, again, this is how miscommunication happens. Someone says something, and the other person is thinking, oh, I know how to fix that. Okay, I won't do that again. Just that. But I'm not even really listening to what you're saying. I'm listening to what I'm thinking you're saying.
Listening to respond.
Right.
And most of the time, it's just that, or what has happened is that you've said this to your spouse before, whatever it may be, and you ended up still not agreeing, still not understanding.
Or being heard. You haven't been heard, right?
So what happens is that you have to create a safe space to be able to freely talk about whatever it is you need to talk about, where it's a no judgment zone. It's a no hostility zone. It's all about love. I want to be able to just be able to say something and you just hear me. And when you approach it in that manner, and now, does it mean that when something is, maybe something happened and we're a little irritated, that we're going to always do this? No. We're human. Right? We have a human aspect of us.
Yep.
Right? So we're going to react sometimes. So, but it takes, like you said, but that's where we have to, like you said, which is a great tool, be able to put in place those tools, those mechanisms, those techniques, so that we don't have to go down that road of arguing, because you may not have known you were out of alignment, right? You're feeling a little irritable, and you really do want a hug. You want to be loved. But because you're feeling the way you're feeling, you don't know how to always express that. And that's where we fall short. We don't always know how to communicate our needs to our mate. So we have to find out, how can we do that effectively, where my mate is receiving it and I'm receiving for them. And it's no miscommunication. There's no unspoken expectations. There's no hidden agendas that we could, like, I can say, hey, baby, like you said, hey, you need a hug? Because he's trying to let you know, hey, you're not giving out love vibes right now.
I'm curious, in your work, what are some of the misconceptions that you hear from couples?
That, like you said, when I find that perfect mate and I get married, that all of my problems and issues are going to be gone.
That the other person is going to make me happy, and it's a lot of false blaming. Well, I'm good, but if my mate would do this, I would be even better.
So the misconception is that when you have two totally different people with two totally different backgrounds, two totally different ideas of life, right? We can love each other, but we really don't think alike on every level. So the misconception is that once you find love and you're feeling all, you're in utopia, right? Everything is good, the rose-colored glasses, that all the problems just disappear. Right? Your money problems disappear. Your anger problems disappear. Your inability to communicate disappears. That's the misconception. People think that, and that's really why our podcast is called loving beyond the I do, because we think once we say I do, hey, we made it. We've crossed the finish line. And what they don't know is that that's where the
fun is just starting.
Yes, that's where everything starts.
It's so interesting hearing you say that, because there's the dating, and you kind of need certain skills for dating, right? You need people to kind of bring that energy in, that big energy, and that but that may or may not be great in marriage. And so, what I'm hearing in terms of our conversation here is that some of the things that we really need in marriage is we need maturity. And we need to know what our expectations are. And we need to be able to figure out ourselves so that we can actually have conversations with our partners. What else is important in marriage?
I think if we take care of ourselves, that will solve a lot of problems. So I'll say this. However you grew up is either going to mold you either way, right? Either I'm going to do what I saw when I was growing up, or I'm going to do the total opposite, right? So when things come up and it says, I don't like that because my mother used to do that. And then when you do that, you send me into a 10-year-old temper tantrum because I never dealt with what I didn't like about when my mother did that. So when you do it as a spouse, I'm confused, or they're confused. Why are you getting upset when I do this? Because I didn't do anything, but you get triggered based on your 10-year-old self. So if we can fix ourselves and live or have the relationship that we're supposed to have, that we truly want to have, not based on all of the experiences from the past, because that's what's making up our relationships right now, our past. And
past experiences, past relationships,
past
the
hurts,
failures, past
the things I will and will not do. I won't tolerate this because I tolerate that from the last relationship, so I'm going to be totally different. So then again, another thing that happens is we never show up as our authentic self. So when we don't show up as our authentic self, we truly come out later on. and sometimes it causes a problem.
It's a relationship shaker. It's an earthquake.
Right. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. We date, we're one person. We get engaged, we're still another person. And then after a while, we truly show up.
And if we don't, as Jason said, if we don't do the self-improvement, the self-development and healing from our past wounds, understanding, my last relationship, it ended because of this. Let me figure out why. Don't let me point the finger at, because the thing is that the common denominator in all of your relationships are you. And so what's going on with me that either I can't see it, I don't understand it, I'm not. So there's something that we have to do as individuals if we really do want a healthy relationship. We have to go into the relationship as a whole person. We all have baggage, but how do we unpack that baggage so that it becomes more of a stepping stone instead of a brick in our backpack that's weighing us down? That's really the true essence of creating healthy relationships, learning from the last one. Otherwise, you're going to keep experiencing it.
I can't tell you how often I hear the phrase, I keep dating the same, the same person over and over again.
Yeah. And
because you're the same person and you keep radiating the same energy.
And as you just said, the law of attraction. I'm not attracting what I want. I'm attracting who I am. And that's what we have to understand. The law of attraction said, if I think about this wonderful woman or this wonderful man, and I just focus on them and I just keep saying what I want, then I'm going to get it. Yeah, they may come into your life. You may attract that, but they're not going to stay.
No.
They're going to turn around. They're going to walk back out, and then you're going to get the person who you had before because you're still the same person. You haven't done the self-development. You haven't done the self-work.
So I want to just invite, let's talk a little bit about your free gift, because I think that is such a beautiful offering and so helpful.
You can talk about that.
All right. So we have 20 questions to start the dialogue between you and your mate, right?
And that's for emotional intimacy.
Yes.
And it can be either emotional intelligence too, because it helps, but emotional intimacy means that we are emotionally connecting. So when we talk about intimacy, intimacy is another word that has many different definitions.
Yes, come on,
right?
man.
A man thinks it's sex.
Oh, it's definitely sex. It's definitely.
A woman thinks
Sex.
a woman thinks it's cuddling and holding hands and feeling close. But we have to understand intimacy has a lot of different definitions. So we first have to figure out, what does it mean to our mate? So go ahead. So there's 20 questions.
Yeah, it's 20 questions, and it's a way to deeply understand your mate. Because there's things, and it goes back to childhood. It's asking some childhood questions and things of that nature. It really unpacks some things. We were working with a couple once, and we shared something about one of the spouse's childhoods, and the spouse goes, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I said, "Oh, you didn't?" And he said, "No, I didn't know him." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, there's some things that you guys need to talk about then." It wasn't anything bad. It's just that he was very, the gentleman's very open about his past if you asked. So if you don't know the questions to ask, you're not going to get the answers.
And sometimes, especially for men, and not always, but, again,
Majority.
it's kind of a generalization, but men are not so easy to be open. It's like you either have to ask, or it has to be in that space where it's kind of like the next logical answer. Otherwise, hey, you asked me this, I answered this. Where women, they're going to say, "Oh," and they
elaborate. Yes,
we just connect everything.
So
when I was 12, and then when I was 16, and so as Jason said, we have to find the ways, because we don't always share in our relationship like we should, because we feel like it's irrelevant. And it's not important. Well, that's years ago. Why would I tell you about what happened in my
I feel
chapter?
like it's irrelevant.
Right.
And that's why we have these 20 questions, so we can go back, we can go in the middle, and we can come to the present. So we can cover all the bases, just general questions, so you can just ask and just have a conversation about it. That way you can
get one of these questions. I'm going to need to put my glasses on for that. But let me get one of these questions. Let me see. So it says, what's a moment in your life that shaped who you are today? So we may have never shared that, right? We may have never thought about it, and two, we may have never shared it, because if we have the type of personality where we're kind of quiet and reserved, and we really don't like to share, or our feelings get hurt easily, what is it in your past that defined you, that made you feel as though, okay, I have to be quiet, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe I grew up in a home where, a child should be seen and not heard. Maybe that was the basis. Not really, aggressive. Or maybe I had an aggressive parent and it made me kind of shy down. So really, sometimes we don't even ask ourselves these questions. So it helps you actually get to know you better, but then it gets your mate to know you from a different perspective, because when we're dating, we usually don't ask these questions. And after we get married, we're just trying to make it work. So
we're just trying to make this thing work.
Right? That's not even part of the tune-up. We're like, we don't even care. We're at this point right now. How can we, what is the problem? So,
and don't add kids to the mix. And then that just throws a whole different dynamics in there when you had children in there. So
children just, you really get off the topic of you. So now everything's about the children. So it's being able to connect emotionally. Yep. And that connection is what we mean by intimacy. That may be just a little trigger that starts you if you're disconnected. And it's easy to get disconnected. We're disconnected by all of the technology that's around us, right? Our phones, our jobs, our children, our responsibilities. So sometimes we get disconnected and we don't even realize. But this just, we recommend, hey, take this on a date night. Have a quiet dinner at home, a Netflix and chill, and let's really talk about this. So after we watch a movie, get into the mood, let's take 5 questions a day, because depending on where you are in your relationship right now, you may not be able to handle all 20. You might want to take it slow. Yeah. Let's get to know each other again. And like you said, right, we're not the same people we were 33 years ago.
No.
So the Tina Marie that got married, I'm not that same person. I need you to know who I am today. And that's where we fall short. who am I married to right now? Because the experiences that we've had as a couple has definitely changed me, right?
Mm.
Being a mom has changed me.
Yes.
Being an entrepreneur has changed. So you have to get to know who you're married to right now.
Here's something here, Deborah. Let me say this. Tina, what's your favorite color? So here's the thing. It changes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my favorite color means it's your favorite color, and it doesn't change. But she'll go, well, I did like red, but I kind of like blue now. So I think I'm leaning towards blue. So I'm going out
I like pink.
See?
I like
it
bright
changes. So I have to stay on my P's and Q's. I have to kind of pay attention to what she's liking and what she's favoring. Right. So you just can't say that's her favorite color. I know exactly what to get her. I'm going to stay on autopilot and I'm going to get her something red every time.
We change like the wind, right? Like the seasons.
Absolutely. It's funny, as I was hearing you say that, I was thinking about a friend of mine who's a stylist, and she goes back and she styles people, I think she said like every 3 to 5 years. And she'll notice, they'll start with color, right? Because that's where they always start. But
Right.
It'll change.
It changed.
And she said it's partly due to the seasons and what feels good.
It is.
So, like, where's my attention going? I'm really curious. How did you start? Like, tell us a little bit about the podcast. How did that start? Yeah.
Okay.
So we've always given couples or individuals or dating people, they've always asked our advice. So it was just a matter of time. We just decided so we've gotten into, married couples club, and we've been around married people, and people always asked us for advice. So then we said, you know what? We're just going to give into God's plan for our lives, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to support you. We took our calling, and we decided to be the instrument in the institution of marriage and relationships. So we just decided, okay, well, this is what we do. We give advice. What's the best way to give advice out there to everyone? Let's start a podcast.
Oh.
And I love that your podcast, so you go, is it Facebook to podcast so that you can interact?
We have a two-phase to the podcast, right? So we have the recorded, which is just recorded, pre-recorded, and then YouTube. And then on Friday, we have open forum, and then that's on Facebook, YouTube, and then that's also gets uploaded to podcast. So we have two different types of podcasts.
Well, not types.
One is a live and one is a pre-recorded.
So what we do is we had the podcast, and they're normally pre-recorded. So we would pre-record them, and then we would get a lot of questions. So what we did is we said, well, we'll do a podcast live to give our audience an opportunity
to interact,
ask questions, and interact.
Yep.
That's so good. And that happens on Instagram and...
No, Facebook and YouTube.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And so where can people find you?
All right. So, you can find us at legendaryrelationship.com. You can find the podcast there. You can find the 20 questions in the book, The Manifest, The Joy-Filled Relationship, best-selling.
Best-selling authors.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
And social media we're everywhere on social media. So we're just at Legendary Relationship. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all at Legendary Relationship.
Just search Legendary Relationship, and it's no S. It's Legendary Relationship, because Jason and I, we're just doing one relationship.
I love that. All right. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you, we've gone all over the place, and it's been a really beautiful conversation, and y'all are amazing. I'm so happy that you...
Thank you. And thank you for having us. Yes.
Thank you.
I look forward to more.
Privilege.
But I'm curious, if there's one thing that you want people to walk away from, what might that be? And I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment to pause and think about that. And I'd like you both to answer. But I just want, to invite people to please check these guys out. They are amazing. Jason and Tina Marie they have a podcast, they have books, they're all over the place. And as you can tell, they have some killer information. And it's what we all need to have legendary relationship. So Tina Marie, one thing, what do you want people to get from our time together?
Self-development. It starts with me. Take your eye off your partner or your mom, your dad, whomever. I think self-development is the most important thing in a relationship. Self-love, self-development, it's all about me first, so I can help, so I will know how to love you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jason, what you got for us?
I totally agree with Tina Marie. But for me, it is looking from the other person's perspective. You can't always be right. So it's nice to have your opinion and have your the way you feel about things. It's like, I feel strongly about this, but I'm willing to look from another lens and your perspective to see if maybe I might have missed something. Then we can better understand the challenge. How we like to conquer challenges is most of the time the challenges are between the individuals. We like to take that challenge, no matter what it is. You can call it whatever, infidelity. You can call it whatever.
Financial problems.
I don't care what the challenge is, whatever you name it. We take it from between us because here's the thing. Someone has to take ownership of that or responsibility, right? So we're looking at the problem or the situation and we're looking around it. So we're trying to say, this is your fault. You take it. It's my fault. I have to take it. No, we take that problem. We sit it out in front of us. We come together and then we attack the problem together. We're not looking around the problem. We're not pointing fingers around the problem. We're saying, okay, this is what the situation is. This is my view on the situation. And then Tina gives hers, and we coach people to give their view on the situation. And then how can we actually look at it and understand each other's view and still come out and be okay? It's not a win-lose situation. I'm not compromising on anything. I just need to see your view, and then you need to see my view, and then we can overcome the challenge.
So that we can come up with a solid solution on how to solve it.
Because sometimes when I compromise, we find that when couples compromise, someone feel like they lost. I gave up something. So if I don't have to compromise, I can still feel heard because you understand my perspective on it. You don't have to always agree, but you can respect my perspective and vice versa, and then we can fix it. The problem is we have a challenge. I have my point of view, and I know my point of view is right, and I always want to be right. So it's hard for me to look at anything that you say if it goes against what I feel. So we say, look at the other person, put on the other person's shoes, see it from that lens.
AKA empathy.
Okay.
Empathy, absolutely. Well, and I just have to say, hearing you say that, like, I'm feeling a little bit like, oh yeah, I kind of do that, don't I?
Awareness. That's that A in manifest, the awareness, right? We can't change what we're not aware of.
Yeah. And we can't change what we're not willing to admit to either.
Change takes honesty.
That's right.
We tell elevation, and elevation takes honesty. If you want to elevate in your relationship or in life, you have to be honest. Because you can't lie to yourself. Even when you lie to yourself, you can still feel it. Your insides still tell you. Right. I don't care what you're thinking and what your mouth is saying. Your insides, it's sort of like when you tell a story, right? You can lie to everybody else and convince them, but you still know. You can't lie to yourself. I don't care how hard. You can't convince yourself because you know. You're going to say, do I do that?
I do that. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Jason, Tina Marie, thank you. Thank you for the work that you guys have obviously done to have. It's so good to be in your presence.
Thank you. Same here. Yes. Love the energy. Yes.
And the awareness and the conversation.
Yes.
All right. So please follow my guests, Tina Marie and Jason, legendaryrelationship.com. All the good stuff can be found there. The book, the podcast, the words of wisdom, the 20 questions. Check them out, support them. And if you know someone who needs this conversation, please go ahead and pass it on. Like, subscribe, and comment. And thank you so much for listening. Take care.